Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for Starboard Consulting's Maximo Coffee Chat. Today's topic is It's Not Too Late to Upgrade in 2021. We are so pleased and thankful that you're spending time with us today and ready to learn. Helping to lead today's presentation is Amy Terry. Amy, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Alex. So I guess we're ready to get started. Or are we going to give everybody a few more minutes to get on?
We can give everybody just a minute to get started.
Awkward silence as we wait.
I know, right?
If you've missed any of our previous coffee chats, we'll be sending a link in the follow-up. They are available to watch on demand. We offer 60-minute full webinars, 30-minute coffee chats, as well as 10-minute Tech 10s that are available and free for you to learn on demand as your schedule permits.
Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and get started? So thanks, Alex, for that intro. For those of you who are not familiar with Starboard, we are an IBM business partner focused on Maximo based out of Longwood, Florida, which is pretty much Orlando, Florida, for those of you not familiar with it. And we do all things Maximo. We do new implementations, training, integrations, mobile. If it has to do with Maximo, we deal with it. So that includes upgrades, which is what we're going to talk about today. So Amy Tatum.
All right, thanks, Amy. So before we get started, I do want to take a look. Obviously, today's topic is it is not too late to upgrade. So if you haven't started that yet, we're going to talk through how you might go ahead and get that done this year. But going forward over the next little bit, we've got a series of technical and business chats. We started these coffee chats last year, and the feedback from the Maximo community was pretty good. Everybody seemed to like the 30-minute short turnaround. Lots of information in a quick time frame. So this year we're starting off again, but we're going to alternate a technical content and a business topic so that we can get both some technical answers out there as well as some business use case answers out there. So today is the upgrade. February 2nd, we'll be looking at Work Center security and how to set that up. February 16th, 2 weeks later, we're going to look at the new inventory work centers. Then on March 2nd, the 1st of March, we'll go back to a technical topic with the MMI Work Center interface. And then again in March on the administration work center. So if you've got other suggested topics, things you'd like to hear from us, be sure to let us know. You can post those in the chats or reach out to us separately. And we're super excited to be offering these. And Amy, what do you think?
I think it looks great. I'm especially looking forward to hearing about the inventory work centers. I know all of our customers are always asking questions about work centers, so that'll be a good one. And also, I do want to mention, along with what Amy said, is that Starboard is excited to bring a great group of presenters to each of these sessions. So you're not going to be stuck with me and Amy every time. We're going to have all kinds of different people coming in. The Starboard team has 100 years of combined Maximo and industry experience, along with numerous Maximo and industry certifications. So let me start by introducing myself. I am Amy Tatum. I'm Amy Terry. I confuse everybody, including myself.
Terry. I'm Tatum.
I'm Amy Terry. I'm a senior project manager for Starboard. I am both PMP and ACP certified. I've been managing projects for about 18 years probably, and the last 9.5 have been entirely in the Maximo world. So been here for a while, and I'm happy to be here today, and I hope Amy and I can give you guys some answers to the questions you have on whether or not it's too late to upgrade. And now my co-presenter here is Amy Tatum. She is Vice President and Technical Director at Starboard. She has an electrical engineering degree and worked in transmission engineering and operations before joining a consulting firm and starting her Maximo career. She's been implementing Maximo for over 20 years now, so she has 20 of that 100 years, I think, and has led countless implementations and upgrades for our clients. So we hope that this is a productive call for you guys, and we're excited to do it. Alex, do you want to go ahead and start with a poll question? You want to bring that up for us today?
Yes. So real quick, we would love to hear from you. You'll see a poll in the chat box. Are you planning to upgrade Maximo in 2021? Feels like 2020, 21. Or are you not sure? If you want to answer just in the chat box, that's fine too. Looks like we have some good answers coming in. All right, we'll go ahead and end the poll. It looks like lots of plans to upgrade. A few not sure. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Alex. Those results are super helpful. Looks like a lot of people already have plans to upgrade, but a few don't. So we're going to talk about why, if you don't have plans yet, you should have plans. And for those of you that do, maybe we'll give you some other things to think about as you go down that path. So the first question is why upgrade? There's a lot of different reasons for that. These are just a couple of them. The first one is IBM support. As most of you probably know, IBM is ending support for the 7.6.0 series of Maximo products in September of this year. So if you're not already in a 7.6.1 release, then you'll need to upgrade to that before September, or you're going to find yourself in a position that you're not going to have support, or you're going to have to pay for the premium support, which I understand can be quite expensive. Another reason would be product fixes. IBM only releases product fixes on current versions. So once your version goes out of support, you're not going to have access to those. And even on some of the more current product fixes, if you're on a little bit older version, you've got to get limited availability fixes or things like that. So it's always good to stay current just to make sure that you can get the most recent versions of the Maximo product line available to you. Another big one is security. If you're not already on the email distribution list, you probably want to be on it. There's a security vulnerability list that IBM publishes. And even just recently, there was a vulnerability that was announced around some of the Java deserialization. And the fixes for that started with version 7.6.0.10. So we had quite a few clients that were on 7.6.0.8 or 09 that had to request limited availability fixes just to address that vulnerability. So staying current is important to make sure that you can keep your Maximo environment secure. Currency is another one, and by currency, I don't mean money. I mean currency with things like your application servers, your database servers, operating systems, things like that. So sometimes if you end up on an older version of Maximo, it doesn't support the latest versions of some of those other ancillary products. We've had some clients that have wanted to do Oracle upgrades on their database, and they couldn't because their Maximo version was too old. So it's important to stay current just to make sure that you can keep your supporting products up to date as well. And then the last reason, and probably one of the biggest, is just the feature updates. IBM is constantly releasing new features, new functions, new business processes. They're very open to the Maximo community, providing feedback, putting in requests for enhancements, always updating the product. And in order to get some of those product updates, you do need to be on a current release of Maximo overall. So we want to make sure that folks are on for that. The 7.6.1.2 release, which was the current one, has some great new scheduler features in it that you might be interested in. There's some updates to the Inventory Work Center, which we're going to talk about in another coffee chat here in a few weeks, and then some really great just general user functionality. The asset drill down is changed. If you haven't seen the new drill down, you got to take a look at that. You're going to love that. And then my favorite, if you do a lot of attached documents, you now have the ability to attach multiple documents in a single action rather than having to do them one at a time. And I think that's going to be a big time saver for some of our clients that do use a lot of attachments. So those are just some of the reasons that you might want to upgrade. Amy, any you want to add to that?
That sounds like a great list. I personally attach documents a lot, so I didn't realize that was in there. I'm excited to know that we can attach multiple documents now. I do have a lot of clients, though, who have a lot of time and money invested in their current environment, and they ask you, they're concerned about, is it going to be cost prohibitive or time? Is it going to take up too much time? And then not only do some of them have just, base Maximo, but they've got industry solutions like utilities or HSE or add-ons like Scheduler. A lot of them have a lot of, several configurations. They have cloned applications. So if they have all these things in the works, should those clients still upgrade? And as our webinar topic implies, can they still upgrade by the end of the year with all those different things in the mix?
Yeah, to answer your first question, absolutely. Definitely, you should still upgrade. There's just so many new features, so many improvements in 7612 that it's definitely worth making the move. And of course, with the end of support on 760 looming, if you are still, if any of them are back on that version, and I know some of them are, and we've got some clients that are even on earlier versions than 760 something. Just to keep on that current release and keep the support, it's worth upgrading. And I think some people may find, I don't know the exact numbers on that premium support, but I have a feeling for a lot of folks, the upgrade may be less costly than the premium support might be. So that's a factor to consider as well. As far as the clients with the add-ons and the configurations, I know that puts people in a position where the upgrade costs can be high. That's only going to get worse the longer you wait. The further you get back in versions, the more, I'll say, hoops that you have to jump through. If you're on a 7.5, you've got to go to 7.60, 11 or something, and then go to 7.61. So the further behind you get, the more steps they are. So it's definitely cost effective in the long run to stay current. So upgrading does need to be done. And it doesn't have to be as expensive as you might think. Small incremental jumps are definitely more cost effective than waiting for a long time to upgrade. And then, just planning your upgrade and figuring out what you can and can't support and do is important as well. And I think we're going to talk about that more in a few minutes.
So Amy, for the people out here that you've convinced, what do we need to consider to make this upgrade program, upgrade plan? What can we do?
So there's a lot of considerations. First up is just kind of the architecture and the environment you're in. So what have you got for add-ons or industry solutions? Are you on-prem? Are you hosted? If you're on-premise now, do you want to move to a cloud-based solution? And that's another consideration. The database that you're on, and if you need a database upgrade as well, and then the hardware also, because chances are you're going to need to establish new servers to support the upgrade and things like that, which, in a VM world, that's a whole lot easier than it used to be. So there's a technical consideration that needs to be taken in from that perspective. And then there's also a lot of considerations around your current processes and your data and what, if any, changes need to be made there. So a like-for-like technical upgrade, really super straightforward, easy to do, short turnaround, not terribly expensive. Those can be accomplished without any problem. But if you're looking at expanding your user base, adding in new business processes, new features, if you've got a lot of data quality issues, those types of things, if you're coming off of a heavily customized environment and you're needing to rebuild a lot of those customizations and the out-of-the-box tool sets, those are the considerations that you really have to look at. And those are also the things that can add time and money to your upgrade. So starting in that top left like for like is the quick turnaround and cost effective piece, and then adding on to that with whatever other pieces that need to be taken into play. So with all of that, as a project manager, I know you've planned out and budgeted and executed a lot of these kinds of upgrades. So what do you think are the next steps?
Yeah, so this is finally the part where we get to me, right? So the next steps people should take is plan. Start planning now for your upgrade. You've got to, achieving an upgrade this year is still possible, but it may take between 6 to 8 months, depending on the complexity, as Amy just mentioned. But of course, we've seen shorter time frames, longer time frames. So it's all in the planning. That's the first step, and we need to get that started right away. So part of the planning may include determining your budget. You're going to have to look at your organization's ability to support the upgrade. If you will keep things as is, like for like, do add in features, users, your data, what is going to be needed as far as testing, training, particularly if you have really complex integrations and a lot of configurations or customizations, because obviously those would fall on the longer end of this. So to stay current on support and get an upgrade done quickly, you may need to start with something like a like-to-like, and then kind of have a phase 1 and then go into a phase 2 with your new features post go live. And along those lines, we've put together another webinar that's going to be coming up on February 11th. that can help you with that. And in this one, I'm going to be joined by two of the other Starboard PMs that we're all very familiar with Agile projects. And in this, we want to specifically cover how to implement Maximo in utilizing Agile methodologies. I guess probably today, most of you do a waterfall or what we refer to as a big bang implementation or an upgrade, and it's overwhelming. It can be expensive. So with this webinar, we want to explain to you guys how we can invoke Agile methodologies for Maximo projects, and doing a like-for-like technical upgrade would be a great place to start. So join us on February 11th, and we'll tell you all about it.
All right, thanks, Amy. The Agile webinar sounds really interesting. So I look forward to that, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of other folks that will join us for that one. So at this point, I think I'm going to turn it over and see. I think we've had a couple of questions come in the chat. So let's see what some of those are. George Perry, our buddy up at NIPA, has asked about the chief differences between 761 and Maximo 8. And they're pretty substantial in that Maximo 8 is, it's part of what they call the Maximo application suite. And it is much more than Maximo as we know it today. Maximo as we know it today with the EAM component is simply what they call managed in Maximo 8. And then also in the Maximo application suite are some of the predict and assist and visual insights and a whole laundry list of other capabilities. So manage is a pretty good like for like of 761. But there's a lot of other components that are in Maximo 8. It's also a completely new architecture. So that's another reason that upgrading in 2021 is probably a good idea. If you want to stick where you are on premise and in a familiar world, then probably going on with a Maximo 7612 in your current on premise would be a smart place to start that. Just because it gives you the ability to stay with something familiar and then start to do a gradual approach, again, using that more agile type of methodology to bring in some of the other capabilities that might be available to you in Maximo 8. So another question that's here from Sean, and Amy, I'm going to let you answer this one. What would you consider a quick turnaround for a like-for-like technical upgrade?
Well, we did use the 6 to 8 month timeline, but I mean, we could, if it was a very true like-to-like, we've done it in as short as 4 months. Again, you would have to have, not a lot of complexities. The integrations would have to be kept to a minimum, but we have done it. I mean, we actually just finished one that took us 4 months, so it can be done, and that's probably the best timeline you want to look at for a really quick one.
Yeah, I think that's based on number of environments, number of integrations, the amount of testing that's needed. One of the things that you might want to do if you're preparing to upgrade, there's an integrity checker utility that's always good to run to see what kind of state your database is in, if you've got a lot of data integrity errors, if you're good in that respect, because those are some of the things that you might run into as you're preparing for an upgrade, is to hit things like that. Looking at it, a couple of other questions, had several about the timing, so I know that's an important one. Again, those considerations here are the things that affect that timing. So if you can stay in that like-for-like realm, then you can turn these upgrades around pretty quickly. The more pieces and parts you add in, the more complicated those are on. We had a couple questions that came in before we got started today. So one of them, are on an older version of Maximo and don't have any problems with it. Users love it. It's stable. Should we upgrade? And that one, of course, I have to say yes. I mean, we're a business partner, and we know all of the new features and functions that have been brought into IBM. We know the changes in the technology. The older versions still had a heavy dependency on Java and Flash and things like that. So there's a lot of related software products that are going away that need to be taken care of. So if you're on anything less than 7.6, then I think my question would be, why are you still there? So, and we've done some pretty big upgrades along those lines.
I see one question someone put on here, is 761 a prerequisite to Maximo 8?
That's a great question, and I would say no, because Maximo 8 is kind of Maximo 761. So I think you would have to, I guess it would be a prerequisite, because in order to go to Maximo 8 and be in the application suite, you've got to be in a compatible version for the application suite, which I think is 7612 at this point. The managed component actually isn't even out yet. I think it's due for release in April. So at this point, you would be upgrading to 7612 in your current hosted or on-premise environment, and then moving it into the MAS suite when that becomes available later this year. So another question we had in advance, then there's a lot of confusion on this. We actually just had this with another client recently. When you look at the IBM, there's upgrades, there's fix packs, feature packs, iFixes, LA fixes. There's a lot of different ways that people refer to that. And fix packs are usually released once or twice a year. They contain a lot of new features and functionality. They go through extensive IBM testing. They're cumulative, so anything that was previously released in another version would be included in the fix pack. So like 7612 is a fix pack, and you'll hear feature pack kind of synonymously used with that. And then there's interim fixes or iFixes, and those are released as needed. So they're released a little more regularly, and they're the next level down and really only contain bug fixes. So you're not going to get a lot of new features and functions out of an iFix. You're just going to get corrections to things that aren't working right. Those usually come out every 60 to 90 days. So I wouldn't consider an iFix an upgrade. Probably would consider a feature pack or a fix pack an upgrade, particularly if it's something that's taking you to a new dot release and picking up a lot of functionality. You've got to do the regression testing and kind of make sure those new features don't break anything that you had before. And then the last level of fix is what we call an LA fix. And those are the one-offs that in order to request one of those, you've got to put in a business justification. It's not very well tested by IBM, so it's an kind of unverified fix, and you should only use those as an interim workaround until you can get on the next iFix or feature pack. So that was one of the other questions that had come in ahead of time. So let's see, another question here. Does Maximo 8 allow more reporting tool integration, or is it still BERT-centric? There is more integration with Maximo 8. There's some analysis components, and then of course there's all of the interfaces with some of the other monitoring tools and predict and things like that. So definitely you'll see a higher level of metrics and dashboarding and reporting capabilities in Maximo 8 than you would see in just the BERT-centric 7.6 types of environments. So if you've got other questions, go ahead and post those in the chat. We've got a few more minutes left before we run out of time for today. We've talked about the timeline a little bit. A lot of interest in Maximo 8 for sure. I would just, there's information coming out daily, I think, from IBM on that. There's been a few webinars on that already. There's some information online on IBM's website related to that. I think I don't think we have a webinar in 8 in the first quarter of this year. But I'm sure we'll start putting those together, particularly with it being released in the April timeframe. We'll be looking at more of those in second quarter. So that'll be forthcoming, I would imagine.
Amy, one of our guests asked if they'll receive a copy of this presentation. We will put this out on LinkedIn, I believe, after the.
Yeah, usually all of our webinars are published after the fact. The recordings are available on our website and on Starboard's YouTube channel. So this one will be available as well as any of the other prior ones that we've conducted in the last year or so. All right. Anybody else got any other questions? Please put those in the chat. We'll be happy to try to answer them. I think I'm going to ask a question to our audience for those of you that didn't have plans for an upgrade this year. Maybe put in why not, if there's some particular concerns that you have, if you've got some constraints, other projects that are going on, budget constraints, not sure where to start, those types of things. I'm curious to know for the folks that aren't upgrading, why that is.
Yeah, that's a good point, Amy. I mean, it'd be interesting to hear if people aren't upgrading, why are they not upgrading? And maybe it's something that is overwhelming them that shouldn't be. Maybe it's a simple solution.
Well, it doesn't look like anybody wants to admit it. All right. Well, I think we've pretty much covered everything. So again, we've got a series of coffee chats coming up. We've also got, I don't think we have a slide on it, but for those of you that are in the facilities workspace, we've got a great webinar coming up just this Thursday. It's a university roundtable. So we've got some guest speakers from several universities that are jumping in to have just an open conversation about managing work in a pandemic and how Maximo has helped them continue to run their businesses. So we're super excited about that. Definitely applicable to the university space, but facilities in general.
Yeah.
So you're welcome to sign up and join us for that. And then feel free to jump in and join us for any of our upcoming coffee chats over the first quarter of this year, and look for the second quarter schedule and let us know if there's a particular topic that you would be interested in hearing more about. So Alex, back over to you.
Great. Well, Amy, thank you so much. A lot of information, a great checklist, and great considerations. We really appreciate your time and sharing of your knowledge. Like they said, we will be happy to send out a copy of both the recording and the slides after the event. You can also check our website at www.starboard-consulting.com, and we'll have copies of past webinars that you're welcome to view as well. Appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to seeing you for our future coffee chats and webinars. Thanks so
everyone.
much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.